At last, you have made it to the climax of this fine performance. Let me introduce our newest player. This fascinating specimen is a creature of purest strength and rage, whose presence here must prove quite a conundrum to you. His resemblance to these other soulless beasts cannot be denied, but he is altogether harder to truly understand. But with the capabilities of my experimental device, I can bring about a rebirth of the spirit, a reawakening of the soul. And thus, we can shed light on this most unique situation. Why not come inside, and I shall show you?
It'll be a cold day in Hades before I relent to you fiends! You
It's not safe.
Burned house. Though I know little about this site, these ruins of an old home are oddly fascinating to me. The small house appears to be from the mid-19th century, and I would say it certainly predates the asylum. Nearby is an old abandoned well that seems to be especially deep. Since the house burned down, one cannot help but wonder if Carnate itself was trying to drive away the people who lived inside it. If one chooses to believe in such things.
warm-up starts. Maybe this will keep you back.
It's good to see another human still among the living. The name is Clem, sir. I've been plotting my escape from Abbott for years, and I had hoped to carry out my exodus tomorrow. But these recent events have ruined everything. Here, I'll show you.
Make him bleed.
He can teach you a lot. See what he has to say.
Kill him.
Look there! Do you see? Coming out of the waves? I swear it is the most hideous thing I have ever laid eyes upon. Damn you all! They're all just fodder, I'm afraid, and there's an eternal supply. To the spoiler! Back from whence it came. Well done, sir. Back from whence it came. Remember, no good deed goes. These festering creatures flaunt science with their every step. What's more, they are impervious to bullets and can only be blown up, burned, or if you are truly brave, hacked up with an axe. They seem to have some connection to an 18th century slave ship wrecked down the beach a ways. This way! We must move now if we are to have any chance at all. Hurry, sir. There's no time to lose. There she is. To my understanding, few were killed in the crash itself, though the traders did not free their still-living human cargo. Instead, they left them shackled in the ship's hull, where slowly the Negroes were consumed by rats. Damnation! The Festers are coming! Takes its place as quickly as you can reload. Back from where it came. Just order, I'm afraid. There's an eternal supply. Remember, no good deed goes unpunished. Damn you all! You may kill one, but another takes its place as quickly as you can reload.
If it weren't for these waterlogged abominations, I'd be able to set my raft to sail. It's a tiny vessel, too small and unseaworthy to accommodate more than a single passenger.
A whole lot of them, and only
Probably
a handful of
one
us.
who weighs as much as yourself. I'll show you. Everyone's innocent on the inside, so I won't go into that whole nonsense. Nor will I ask nature of your friend. But that just
You may kill one, but another takes its place as quickly as you can reload. My raft. Watch yourself. It will ignite if tampered with. Look there! Our tormentors return!
I clambered out that large sewer pipe to escape from Abbott. Now I wonder if we wouldn't be safer going back inside. But I will not give up on my plan. Steady! They're back again! Back from whence it came! They killed one! Watch that! I am not your enemy! Arms away! Fire in the hole!
Fester, continually emerging from the slave ship. These are the festering creatures who foil my attempts to escape this confounded rock. Rats live within their flesh, writhing within it and then springing forth randomly. They appear to be a reincarnation, not of the slaves, for then they would be of darker skin tone, but instead of the slave traders. In this form, they are forced to live out again and again the fate they forced upon those hapless slaves.
Back from whence it came! I do believe those creatures are coming from inside the wreck. If you can get in there, you might be able to destroy them. Then I'll be able to launch. If you will assist me in this matter, with your wife, I implore you, sir, inmate to inmate, how much longer I can survive this Mailscore death. Thanks to you, sir. I left you a valuable map up near the sewer entrance. Good luck. Don't let the bastards keep you down.
Set him free, team.
This place wants you, Torque. It needs people like you. Once it gets a hold of you, it won't let you go, like it hasn't let me go. I've been here a damn long time, and it's sucked me dry. I pray it's almost done with me. It's sending something after you. It let you out for a bit, now it wants you back, deep inside. Deep inside where I've been all these fucking years. Don't say I never did anything for you. Come join me in the dance hall.
internment camps are a good idea out west, and it's a good idea to shoot crouch spies on this coast.
Been waiting so long just to fucking sleep. I think you're my last chance, Talk. Don't let me down. Oh no. It's back. It's starting again. It never stops. It just keeps burning. It won't let me go. I think we got something in common. We know what love is. We know what it is to love a woman. You do anything for her. Am I right? And something else. We know what it is to lose it. Lose it all. To not be in control. I just want to die. I remember what I was in here for. Beating up some guy, whatever. I got screwed by the system. Fuck them. They fucked my life. They're as responsible for my old lady's diet as I am. Nobody wants the whole story. Just lock them up, throw away the key. See you next life. It burns. Wanted to keep her safe. Couldn't protect her while I was on the inside. It ate me up. I lay awake at night thinking of what would happen to me. Any guy like me, any guy really loved his old lady would have done the same thing. Hot. one that day she came over for a conjugal. Fuck. Screwed her like I never had before. Smooth, warm, rough, sweet. The best lay of our lives. I can't fucking take it! She was laying there after. She looked so beautiful with the sheen of sweat on her. We did it. Every last inch of her. All over. We cut it. Why? Stop! Scalding! It's coming again! Thank you.
Now it's just you and me. We will meet again later.
Daddy, I love you, Daddy. You wouldn't hurt us.
Dad, I'm over here. I gotta talk to you. Don't you wanna see me? Dad, I'm over here. I gotta talk to you. Don't you wanna see me?
You're not so bad, I guess. I just wish you'd always been there, you know? Something broke in you in that group home, T, and I didn't have enough time to fix it. There's beauty in you. I could always see it. Stay strong for me, okay?
Come for your goddamn children! It's not safe out here, Harley. It's not safe. You're gonna get us both killed, you psycho! What the hell are you fucking evolution? You're next. My God, you're so fucks. Go back! There's no way through! Watch out! Up there! Oh, Christ!
Escaping isn't as simple as just getting outside. But I don't need to tell you that. You know there is no real escape.
hereby sentence to enough. Weapons to the ready. Take aim.
Y'all won't get me! Fucking pigs! Fucking pigs! Come correct, punk! Step to your grave, motherfucker!
You couldn't save Corey and Malcolm from the fire.
Word is bond!
They're with us
I'll
now.
fuck you up!
The Bluff. On the south side of the island near Fort Malison, there is a bluff which appears to have been forgotten since the 1940s. Along the ocean side of the bluff are 3 wood posts riddled with bullets to which dead bodies are still attached. This seems to be the site of the little-known 1944 execution of 3 American soldiers, executed on suspicion of treason. No actual evidence of wrongdoing was ever found.
You gotta get me out of here.
Father tried to kill you.
He was confused.
Leave him to rot.
We've gotta help him. He'll die in here.
Look, I'm sorry for trying to blow your ass up. Now get me out of here. You gotta get me out of here. Thanks, man. I would have gotten out of there myself, but you just sped the shit up. Hey, sorry about trying to blow you up back there, but I thought you were a hack. I've been in Abbott too long, damn it. Look, I ain't going back, you feel me? Come on, we gotta get to the lighthouse. Clock's ticking. It's this way! Look, the lighthouse has a basement. It's like a bunker. Look, we can hold up there and wait until the dope wears off and these hacks are out of ammo. Look, it's tied up in these caverns, but I know all the shortcuts. Look, it's right up here. Come on. Thanks for helping me out back there, but I would have made it on my own, so don't act like you saved my life or nothing. I'm gonna make it through this bad trip. I don't need nobody. I'll bring you down. Stay strong. Represent, motherfucker! Look, it's right up here! Come on!
As long as it takes.
We're almost to the lighthouse. Come on!
I don't think so. Are we gonna have enough air? There's plenty of ventilation. Calm down. What about food? I don't know. I think we should... Rhett, yeah? When we run out of food, you're gonna be the first one we eat.
That's what I loved about you.
Sweet! This is it! We're set now. It's like a vault in here. Nothing can get in.
Nothing.
You say something?
Yes.
What was that? I think the dope's coming back.
Breathe deep.
That smell! What in the fuck's going on?
That always feels good. He needed to go. He wasn't interesting enough. Not like you. You understand how it feels. He needed someone professional to pull the switch. A lot of eager sadists applied, but I was the only one who took the work seriously. So seriously, I wanted to taste the gas myself. That's what carnate does. It brings out the killer inside. It's the perfect place for you and me. In the chamber, there is an intense light. Everything is visible. In the control room, the lights are off. You can't see anyone. No one knows you. I like that feeling. I'm here in the basement of the lighthouse for a reason. It's the one place the beacon can't illuminate. I thrive in that darkness. I love the history on Carnate. Over the years, every lifelong killing has found its place. I envy. Ah, yes. That's it.
World War II fort. Built in 1942, Fort
Dr. Killjoy. One of Abbott's most persistent legends tells of Dr. Killjoy, the quite insane psychiatrist-surgeon who ran an asylum on Carnate. Doing research of my own, I found that he did indeed exist, though which stories are true and which are fabrication is anyone's guess. Since the cataclysm, I have 3 times seen a surgeon formed of pure light, reminiscent of 16mm film projection come to life. Could this be the fine doctor? Horace. Many inmates break once inside Abbott, but none have snapped more extremely than Horace Gage, who, the tale goes, became convinced his wife wasn't safe without his protection and sliced her to ribbons during a conjugal visit. He ended up in the mercy chair, electrocuted by Abbott's then executioner Hermes Haight. For years, inmates have said he haunts Abbott, and I believe I saw him 10 minutes ago. I surely wish I had not. Hermes. Since the cataclysm, I have several times found myself mysteriously surrounded by noxious green fumes. I have fled in each case, and I think if I had not, I might not be alive to write this now. Within the gas, I have seen a humanoid who seemed to take great joy in the prospect of my death. Could this be Hermes, Abbott's resident executioner for several decades? If I recall, he took his own life in the gas chamber.
World War II fort. Built in 1942, Fort Malison served as both coastal defense facility and POW camp. The fort had some 250 men and held approximately 1,000 prisoners. The fort's most notorious story is of its colonel, who executed 3 of his men for treason because a German airplane crashed on the island. A subsequent court-martial found no evidence to justify these executions, and the colonel ended up taking his own life. The lighthouse. The lighthouse is the oldest standing structure on Carnate Island. Its cornerstone states its date of construction as 1834. The light was originally oil-powered, but since the 1950s has run off of a nearby generator. Similarly, the lighthouse's rotation was originally powered by a system of gears that would periodically need to be recranked. To this day, when the power goes off, the motion needs to be restarted by hand cranking.
Understand, something wrong on Carnate. We need the lighthouse functional to send help. Over.
Who are all these strange people? You're the one. How did it get this far? You're the one, aren't you? My dream. Are you the one I saw in the woods? These strange people. How did it get this far? We've been playing for so long. Are you the one I saw in the woods? You're the one, aren't you? You're the one, aren't you? You're the one, aren't you? You're the one, aren't you?
I will kill every last one of you! Die, Diablos! Die! You! God damn it, what are the chances? I survived 10 hours out here in this pit of hell, and I have to run into you? The scum who killed his own wife and children? Why, Pendejo? Huh? Why you do it? You going to kill me too? Come on, inmate, kill me, I dare you!
Kill him before he kills you.
Wait, he's just confused.
So it turns out you don't have the cojones to kill me when you have the chance. You fucking inmate. Go to hell, I am done with you.
He'll shoot you in the back.
Give him a reason to trust you.
Why do you follow me, inmate? Who are you fooling? You hate me as much as I hate you. All you inmates think CEOs are evil, but we are prisoners in Abbott as much as you. You ever think of that? When this shit happened, I immediately headed to town, down this road. I wanted to find Consuela and my daughters, my beautiful girls. But I got to our house, it was on fire. These fucking putas everywhere, no sign of my family. I have been looking ever since, and I will not give up. You still here, inmate? Torque, isn't that what they call you? Well, come on then. We may hate each other, we may die anyway, but we will kill more of these putas together than alone.
Beacon must be restarted.
Inmate!
Anyone read?
Torque, over here! This way, inmate. Vámonos! Torque! Over here! The Coast Guard is our only hope to survive, and they need the lighthouse on in order to land here. But the earthquake knocked the power out. We need to get the generator started again. Follow me! When you shoot these burning Diablos, make sure you finish them. Destroy their ashes. It is the only way to make sure they do not come back. What are they doing? Won't they let the dead rest?
We never thought they'd really do it. It all went wrong. It was fun. We didn't like them. We made them go away.
Inferna. From what I have witnessed, this manifestation of evil appears to have two distinct forms. The first, a young girl in Puritan dress, perhaps 13 years of age. This transforms into an altogether more disturbing flaming creature. Both clutch a small handmade doll. To my mind, there is no doubt that these creatures are tied to the 3 young girls who made witchcraft accusations in the late 1600s and led to the incendiary death of 11 innocents.
Old Cemetery. This cemetery is home to the remains of 11 Puritans who were accused of witchcraft and burned at the stake in 1681. Witch burning was all but unheard of on this continent, with other suspected witches, such as those in Salem, having met their demise at the end of a rope. It appears that hanging was not enough for the residents of Goodsmouth, no doubt because Carnate Island is a place that drives people to extremes.
Let's get out of here. These dead do not sleep well. Not on Carnate. Look out for the fire! It's going to blow! You do good for an inmate! I will have to keep my eye on you! Blast them again once they're ash! When they come back! Together we are quite a team, eh? Who would have ever thought I would be partners with an inmate? Back to hell, inmate! The generator is behind that fence there, but I don't know how to get in. Even if we could, those creatures keep jumping out of that pit. I swear, mate, it is as if that hole leads straight to hell. And get that generator going.
T, I'm coming to visit. I want to see you and the boys. I've got good news. Things are going well here. And I've got a proposition. I think we can make it work. For once, things are gonna work out. I can't wait to see the boys, and you too. I'll meet you at your apartment, okay? See you soon, T.
You know what I hate? Sweet, beautiful girls. How could everything have gone so wrong? I can forget. Hurry up and get that generator going. Adelante! Time is my enemy. I must find Consuela. Inmate, you have done it! The lights are on. Let's get back to the lighthouse and leave this evil place. This way, inmate. Vámonos.
T, I'm coming to visit. I want to see you and the boys. I've got good news. Things are going well here.
Inmate, hurry! Look! Inmate, what are they doing?
Pocket full of roses. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Look! Inmate, what are they doing?
Ring around the roses, pocket full of roses. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Ow! Watch out! My wife told me the story of this place. 300 years ago, there was a Puritan village on this island. 3 young girls accused villagers of being in league with the devil. There were burnings. I think this is where they did it. They feared evil from within, but they did not see the real enemy. Oh no, inmate. Inmate, I'll have to keep my eye on you. Oh no, inmate. I do not think so. I'm not going in those caves. You go if you want. I'll wait out here. Torque, over here. Inmate, hurry! Damn. The power is on, but the light is not turning. The lighthouse is old and decrepit, half broken, but you will need to fix it. I will keep watch out here, you go inside.
Not fully operational. Repeat, not yet revolving. Over. Coast Guard Prometheus calling Carnate 2. Do you copy? Lighthouse must be fully working for rescue craft to dock.
Dad, I'm sorry. I see stuff better now, and I wish we'd had more time together. Wish things were different.
Prometheus calling Carnate 2. Do you copy? Lighthouse must be fully working for rescue. Light is visible, but not rotating. Light must be fully functional to get bearing and dock successfully. Carnate 2, good work. Light now fully visible and rotating. We are coming ashore. Each boat at docks, over. Carnate 2, skiff is on the way. Meet at dock, over.
Inmate, hurry! The light is on. Oh, now the Coast Guard can come. Muchas gracias, Stork. You have proven yourself. I still say inmates are scum, but you, maybe less so, see? Come on, now we can make our way to town. The road is gated up here. I don't know how we'll get through, but we will have to.
It's not just Abbott. It's this whole island. It's a cesspool of human atrocity. People come here, they do things maybe they wouldn't normally do. Evil fucking shit. But you're different. You're a wild card in the deck. But you set me free. I never forget a debt. Won't you? Now go on. Find out what kind of man you are.
What was that? Lightning? It almost hit us. Well, at least we can make it through the gates now. Come on.
Carnate 2, repeat. Now send...
Look, over there.
Daddy, these girls taught me a new game. Do you want to play, mister?
understand what we just saw there, but I don't ever want to see it again. Did you kill your children, or did this place somehow do it? Like it has taken mine. Oh, these are black times. It hurts too much to stop and think about it. We must keep going.
We want you to be here with us.
Mira! Those fucking creatures, they've trapped us! It looks like our time has come! We'll never make it out of here alive.
Don't you want to stay?
I think the fire is coming closer. We're done for. This smoke will kill us soon. I think the fire is coming closer. It is horrible to die this way after surviving so long. I will never see my Consuelo again. I think the fire is coming closer. We're done for. This... Dios mío. A miracle, the fire is out. Again, you prove yourself. Come on, we must get to town. Don't kill me! Consuela! Destroy their bodies! Leave no trace! Here's the only way! ¡Quémese, diablo! ¡Quémese! Que mala suerte! The road is out! There's no way across, and this is the only way to get to town. Inmate, watch out! That truck is on fire! In this fire, we pay for the sins of this country.
You still need some help. In the lighthouse, you showed me just how good a killer you really are. But you don't know anything. Go on to the dock, where you'll see how things really are.
What diablo was that? Well, at least we can make it across now. Come on! Once they are ash, or they come back! In the name of mi familia! Holy Mary, Mother of God. Look, the town, it burns! My family, if they are still there, it is too terrible to think of. What has happened to this island? We must get to the town somehow! I must find Consuela!
The town. Built on the site of the Puritan village of Goodsmith, this town is home to nearly 30 corrections officers and their families. It has a single dilapidated general store, a small, overgrown park, and a church that for as long as anyone can remember has had no minister. It is generally agreed that no one would live in this depressing place were it not for the daunting distance back to the mainland and lack of ferry service.
You're a father, right? Or were a father? I would do anything to keep my children safe. I cannot imagine any parent who would not. That is what I would never understand. There is no way through! This inferno is too thick! I must go back to the town! I have to keep looking! You go on, inmate! Meet the Coast Guard at the docks! I will meet you there later!
You gave him the chance he never had. Everything comes to an end.
Is complete. Your cure is at hand. You might think my methods a bit unorthodox, but my results will speak for themselves. Ahead you will encounter something altogether unlike what you've seen before. But I have something that can help you. A device that can cure you, put your demons to rest. But only if it is sufficiently powered, and only if you are in your more, shall we say, primal form. Use this correctly, and you cannot help but be cured. You do want to be cured, don't you, Doc? It's up to you now.
The docks. The only functional dock remaining on Carnate, this is the sole point of entry for inmates and their visitors, as well as corrections officers, and those of us who happen to be married to them. I remember the first day I came to Carnate. It was raining in sheets, and the ship had trouble docking. I remember thinking the island didn't want us coming here. I've long thought it would have been better if we had turned back then.
The man was wearing black clothes. He was like a shadow. I didn't see him, and then he was there. Oh, Daddy, I wish you could have been there. I know you would have kept us safe.
They killed us to get to you, didn't they? I forgive you, Dad. You couldn't keep us safe forever. I just wish I could have said goodbye. You always had the worst luck, T. We didn't work out for so long. And when we got close, it all got taken away. You'd never hurt us. Not on purpose. No matter how angry you got at the world, you always loved me and the boys. Now's the time, T. You need to face down the anger you have inside. Remember, I'm right there with you.
I only briefly saw this enormous creature a single time, near the docks. I cannot even begin to describe him, save for one thing. He seems to be quite literally connected to an inmate, the convicted killer Torque. Incredible as it may sound, this creature appears to have a miniature version of Torque attached to him via a long umbilicus. Beyond that, I can only say that I view him as the most evil of all the creatures, a pure manifestation of fury and hatred.
Sends his regards. Back in Eastern, he warned you, but you didn't listen. He said to leave you alive. Only you. Enjoy your new life.
Get on board, quick! I don't know what the hell's happened, but we gotta get out of here. Another boat's coming to pick up anybody else who's left. Hold on! You're that guy Torque, ain't you? I heard about you in the news. I got a friend at the DA's office. Says the prosecutor on your case is being indicted. Says you probably get a new trial. Guess it's your lucky day, huh? Jesus. You look like you've really been through hell.
Somebody's missing from this picture, T. I don't want us to ever be apart again. Love always, Carmen.
Torque's family. In one of my other entries, I discussed Torque, the notorious inmate who seems at ease dispatching these creatures. I recall seeing in the sun a picture of the man's ex-wife and 2 boys, and I have drawn it here from memory. I remember they were a beautiful family, and it seems unbelievable that any man so blessed would have the audacity to kill them so savagely. But as we all know, beauty alone is often not enough.
End of the line.
Welcome to Carnate, inmates. Enjoy your stay.
If any of you got jackrabbit blood, I will blow you wide open. Hear me?
Happy to be here.
Can't believe I'm back in this motherfucking shithole.
I hear that.
I will shoot you, I will bury you, and I will
Place
piss
on
on
Earth.
your grave, you dig?
They disgust me. Yeah, I know that guy.
Hello, my name
Yo,
is Richard
Ralph.
Rouse. I was lead
What
designer and
country code
writer on The
this time?
Suffering. What you're playing here is what we called Level 0. This was a prologue that we originally planned to be the first thing you would play when you started the game. It was added fairly late in development to provide a more interactive introduction, to suck the player in. And I think it did a lot of good stuff. It added a great establishing shot of the island, it foreshadowed the final boss, it introduced Torque's family, and I think it featured some of the best voice acting we had. But in the end, we decided not to include it as the opening because it came off as a bit contrived. It also didn't pack the punch of the death row sequence and further delayed getting into the real game. We've included it here as a bonus for finishing the game, so I hope you enjoy playing it.
You see that guy? Fucking degenerate killed some kids.
His own kids is what I heard. Fucking baby killer.
Shit. This ain't the kind of whack job I want for a bunk,
He
man.
won't be around for long. The shitbags joining the short timers on death row.
Oh, shit. He'll appeal and appeal and appeal. Cocksucker got 8 years left. Easy.
Fucking travesty. I say we speed it up. Cut him down to size.
Yeah. COs won't give a damn if we shiv him.
We're just saving him the trouble.
I say we...
Hell yeah. Let's do this shit.
Shit going down.
Time to
Damn it.
suffer, boy.
Cocksucker. Put that shit in there. Drop your weapons, inmate.
I still believe in you.
What the fuck just happened? Don't move, inmate, or we will shoot you. Miles, Ernesto, get in there and get him under control.
I think people like being frightened, and I think they like exploring the darker side of humanity and looking into an environment they wouldn't normally, have access to, most likely. I think early on, the team would talk about what we found compelling in the horror genre, and far and away, The Shining was the movie that stood out for everyone as something that was uniquely horrific, yet not cheesy or ridiculous at the same time. It's a serious piece that is also intensely frightening. So we really wanted to create that same feeling of you're walking through an environment and then you're seeing visions of things that are, you don't maybe understand right away, but over the course of the whole game, come to create a sort of a full picture of, one man's tortured soul and the horrible historic events that have taken place on this island. The island has had a colorful history, where there was a rock quarry that was used to build the prison. There was a beach where a ship wrecked. There's an old abandoned asylum, which is a Victorian home from the late 19th century. And that served two important functions, which was to keep the game environment varied over the course of the game and to allow us to sort of bring out history through recreating different architectural styles, or obviously a rock quarry is going to look very different than a beach and so forth.
The way we portrayed the history of the island was to give the player opportunities to find bits of the history as they progress through the game. And in doing so, they uncover sort of a more macro vision of the island's nature.
We didn't really want a character that looked any particular nationality or race. He really is almost Neanderthal in his appearance. He's very primal. We wanted that strength to kind of come through, so we built up some of those characteristics.
A tough character that no matter what he was doing, he always came through as like a really solid, tough guy. And then he looked cool no matter what he was doing. Like he was just shooting a gun, he looked good shooting a gun, and he looked tough and carried out an attitude throughout.
I think the primary thing we wanted to do was make the player feel that though they were in this intensely frightening and life-threatening situation, they were in control of a character that could make it through if only they were able to manage it themselves. It's not like in some horror movies where the main characters are sort of weak and constantly tripping over roots as they're trying to run away from the guy, and they can just barely manage to survive. Torque is someone who can take on an army of creatures and blast them to bloody bits and then be ready for more.
Well, the thing with Blood is it's actually a lot like a shadow map in terms of projecting geometry onto another object. So we basically take our Blood texture map, we figure out what objects collided with, and we send it through a projection matrix, and it ends up being rendered on top of the other geometry, looking like it's actually attached to it. There's actually a whole series of different effects and objects that come into play. We have everything from blood that sprays onto the wall behind you. We have the player actually will have blood spray onto him. You'll be covered from face to toe. We have the enemy that you're hitting, of course, gets damaged. You can lose limbs, you can lose your head. It really feels like you're actually doing physical damage to the world.
Something that was also important to me was to explore sort of the relationship between corrections officers and inmates. Since it is a prison environment, there's a lot of tension there between these sort of two factions, neither of which has really complete control over the prison.
Oh, he won't say. Claims he blacked the whole thing out. I like his story. The needle's too good for him. Filthy inmate, they should all die.
A likely story. The needle's too good for him. Filthy inmate. They should all die.
Since we were going for sort of a continuous immersive experience, we didn't have the benefit of mission screens or voiceover narration or something helping the player along. So it was a real challenge to sort of get the characters to both talk in a way that's realistic and also in a way that'll convey the story to the player.
Welcome to Carnate, inmates. Enjoy your stay.
Once the cataclysm happens and the creatures are everywhere, the corrections officers are really on the same side you are. From the beginning, we wanted to stay away from zombies and the more tired horror cliches that everyone's had enough of, and wanted to move on to something that was more disturbing and more unique to this experience. I think it was also early on we decided we wanted to have a theme for all the creatures so that they weren't just, this random Cthulhu monster or, this random apparition. Instead, it was they're each themed after different execution methods, which ties into the history of Carnate and all the various forms of humans killing humans that have gone on there.
Creatures, we wanted to make them as creepy as possible, make them feel very intimidating and deadly. We drove we had a lot of inspiration for a lot of the creatures from movies like House on Haunted Hill and old Geiger stuff.
It really actually fell on probably one of the sickest character designers I've ever met, Ben. So he really tore it up and really was the inspiration for every one of these character designs. They really started to come home and really started to really have some depth to them once the sound got in. I have to say the sound is probably one of the most amazing pieces of work that's been put into this game. It's incredible.
I worked with the composer to come up with sort of a hybrid idea there where we would extract the elements for the music from the sound design. Objects that were made of various elements, stone, steel, things that had long tones. We were using aluminum rods that were 10 and 12 feet long and getting them to resonate lengthwise. We were then striking them and getting them to resonate horizontally. Just about anything we could think of to create sonic signatures that were not typically used in game soundtracks.
The biggest thing I hope the players bring to the game is their own sort of creativity. We've created sort of a world that the player can explore and can see the various historical events, but at the same time we were fairly careful not to explain too much to the player. So there's going to be a lot of sort of connecting the dots and putting your own spin on, well, I think this is what happened here, or understanding Torque's backstory. Different players may see it differently, and that's important since you are Torque going through the game.
I don't like being in here at night by myself. If there are ghosts anywhere, they would be here.
Prisons and jails built in America in the 1700s and 1800s were gruesome reminders that crime did not pay. In a time when deplorable living conditions walked hand in hand with death and personal tragedy, these institutions of punishment were truly terrifying places that assuredly left deep psychic fissures in this world and the next. The Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was just such a place.
Most prisons before Eastern State was constructed were large open holding cells, and they would put everybody in together. They'd put adults in with children, men in with women, and all types of criminals. So petty thieves would be locked in with murderers, all packed into these large open holding cells. They were incredibly violent, disease-ridden. Sometimes disease would wipe out the entire prison population. There was very little sense that people would be better after they were released.
In response to these wretched conditions, a new type of prison was planned. Built on an elevated cherry orchard just outside Philadelphia, the Eastern State Penitentiary was supposed to be a new and humane way to house prisoners. But in fact, it turned out to be a place of solitude and misery.
In the early years, prisoners at Eastern State lived in extreme isolation. They woke up in their cells, spent 23 hours a day in their cell, went to bed in their cell, and knew almost nothing aside from this small white room. Typical sentence was about 2 years. Inmates were given some kind of simple work to do in their cells and given nothing to read except for the Bible. The majority of them were illiterate anyway. And so, in the early decades of the prison's use, the experience of an inmate would be about surviving isolation. Day in, day out for years at a time with almost no human contact. Spending years in strict isolation can drive a person insane.
Prisoners were housed in small individual cells with no windows and shortened doorways, specifically designed to humiliate an inmate. The only light source in the room came from a single hole cut in the ceiling of the cell, called the Eye of God.
The prison cells at Eastern State were designed like small chapels. They have a high, arched ceiling and blank white walls, and the only light comes in from above. And they call it the Eye of God. And so when you're in there, you look up and all you see is this little circle of daylight looking down, and it does look a little bit like an eye. And it's meant to create the impression that you're always being watched, and that even though there's no windows in the room, God is looking down at you through this little point, this little eye above. It's spooky.
The key to the success of Eastern State Penitentiary was the complete isolation of its inmate population. As a matter of practice, prisoners were hooded whenever they were outside their cells. Cells were built with soundproof walls in order to keep the prisoners from fraternizing with each other. For all essential purposes, the inmates were cut off from the outside world, forbidden to see another prisoner for the entire duration of their sentence.
The people who ran Eastern State Penitentiary had a fetish about silence, and so even the guards pacing these corridors wore socks over their shoes to muffle their footsteps. And the carts they used to roll food up and down the hallways had leather over the wheels so they'd roll silently up and down the hallways. Inmates ate in their cells, they slept in their cells. Inmates were only taken out of their cells to bathe about once every 2 weeks, and when they did that, they had their heads covered with a hood with no eye holes, basically put a bag over their head, so that all the inmate would remember from their time at Eastern State was the 4 walls of their cell.
Silence was strictly enforced at the Eastern State Penitentiary. If a prisoner was caught making any noise at all, they were severely punished. Prisoners who continually broke the rules faced stiffer and stiffer penalties. Over time, the prison's administrators had to resort to more intense forms of punishment to get their point across. Punishments for repeat offenders included the straitjacket, the iron gag, and a particularly hideous contraption called the mad chair.
Most prisons at the time were extremely violent, and inmates who came into Eastern State could expect at first they'd be treated very well. But if inmates committed infractions of the rules at Eastern State, they'd be treated the way they'd be treated at any other prison in the early 1800s, which was with extreme force. Sometimes they would take inmates out into their exercise yards, hang them by their wrists from chains, strip them naked, and douse them with water in the wintertime. There was accounts of one inmate having ice hanging from his beard while he hung naked out in the exercise yards. There was even an inmate named Matthias Macumsey who was consistently making noise, and they couldn't get him to stop, and they put him in a device they called the iron gag. It held his hands behind his back, and a bar went up and into his mouth and put a metal rod against his tongue to keep him quiet. And he struggled against it, and his tongue swelled, and he choked to death. There was an investigation, they looked into it, and decided that he'd asked for it, that he had it coming. This was typical for the way prisons were run at the time. Life was cheap in the early 1800s.
If a prisoner survived solitary confinement and had the physical strength to conquer the prison's many torture devices, he had one more demon to defeat, that being disease. The prison's poorly designed heating, plumbing, and ventilation systems worked together to spread the putrid odor of human waste to every nook and cranny of the building. These unsanitary conditions caused outbreaks of illness that ravaged both the inmate population and the guards assigned to maintain order in the prison. Without a doubt, serving time at the Eastern State Penitentiary was a mind-numbing experience. There were many documented instances where prisoners went insane because they could not handle the isolated conditions that were the mainstay of the prison. The Pennsylvania system of punishment at the Eastern State Penitentiary was finally abandoned as it produced very few reformed prisoners. For over 150 years, the Eastern State Penitentiary housed murderers, gangsters, and the criminally insane. Al Capone, America's most notorious gangster, was sentenced to 1 year at the Eastern State Penitentiary in 1929.
By far the most famous of our alumni is Al Capone. A lot of people don't realize that the first time that Capone was in prison was in Philadelphia. He was traveling from Atlantic City back to his home in Chicago, and Philadelphia police stopped him while he was in town and searched him and found that Capone was carrying a .38 caliber revolver, and it was loaded, The courts in Philadelphia wanted to make an example out of this famous Chicago gangster, and so they gave him the maximum sentence, which was 1 year in prison. Ironically, though, they sent him up here to Eastern State Penitentiary, and while the courts were trying to be harsh with Capone, the Department of Corrections was extremely generous. And so while he lived here, Capone had oriental rugs and oil paintings on the wall of his cell, and he had a cabinet-style radio, which would be fairly high-tech, like having a DVD player now. We've never known why he got such special treatment while he was here. He might have bribed the warden. It might have just been that he was a celebrity.
In 1956, cell block number 15, also known as Death Row, was constructed at the Eastern State Penitentiary, one of the last buildings added to the prison complex.
Cell Block 15, otherwise known as Death Row, was a two-story building that housed the worst examples of humanity.
Cell Block 15 was the last cell block added into the Eastern State Penitentiary complex, and it's where they housed the most violent and disruptive inmates in the Pennsylvania system. It's the only cell block that had the modern electronic door locks where they could open and close cells by pushing buttons, which kept the guards distanced from the inmates. They were scared of these guys. Many inmates spent the last weeks, days, hours of their life inside of Cell Block 15, and on the day of their execution, they'd be shipped out to a different institution to die in Pennsylvania's electric chair.
By the 1960s, the march of time had been particularly unforgiving to the old prison. The Eastern State Penitentiary was considered out of date and in a state of miserable disrepair, and in 1971, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania officially closed the doors of the historic Eastern State Penitentiary. Reopened in 1994 as an historic site, daily public tours are conducted at the Eastern State Penitentiary, and special ghost tours are held at night prior to Halloween. No better place could be found to host a ghost tour. In fact, many visitors come to the prison in the hopes of having a supernatural encounter with one of its many spirits. The prison's fortress-like atmosphere, crumbling cell blocks, and water-stained ceilings most certainly lends itself to the perception that the place could be haunted.
I think there's a couple different reasons that Eastern State is so haunted. First is the stone construction. A lot of old buildings, especially public works buildings, were made out of stone. And a lot of paranormal researchers have proven that certain types of stone seem to magnify or collect psychic or spirit energy, and that would explain why a lot of castles in Europe are reported to be haunted. Just the untimely demise of so many people and so many horrific experiences of the different prisoners there really have embedded themselves into the very foundations of the prison. And it's like a giant tape recorder that replays these horrific experiences over and over and over again, and probably will never end with the amount of torture and torment that's taken place there.
But for those lucky,
and probably will never end with the amount of
world inside the prison, paranormal ambience definitely does not account for all the things they have encountered there. In September 2001, members of the Philadelphia Ghost Hunters Alliance conducted an investigation at various locations within the main part of the prison. Armed with night vision scopes, digital recorders, and photographic equipment, investigators set out to find evidence that ghosts exist at the Eastern State Penitentiary.
Their investigation really focused on cell blocks 5 and 6. Members, initially when they arrived, reported seeing a figure step out of a cell, and it caught one of the members' attention, and they went and investigated further, and as the investigator approached, the figure stepped back in the cell. And when the investigator arrived, they found that the cell was empty. The Philadelphia Ghost Hunters Alliance basically determined after their investigation that the prison really could be haunted based on all the numerous experiences that they dealt with on that particular evening.
According to various paranormal researchers, there are several areas in the Eastern State Penitentiary that appear to magnify the spirit energy trapped within its walls.
Guards and visitors over the years reported hearing disembodied voices and screams and wails and cries that just seemed to emanate from the deepest bowels of the prison, where no person could actually get to.
Ghostly encounters are not limited to the prison building alone. The ghost of a prison guard has been observed numerous times in one of the prison's guard towers. What did the guard witness in the courtyard that tethers his spirit to the prison even in death? No one knows for sure.
One of the towers, a guard is seen to keep watch on an empty prison. Why a prison guard would want to be there after they've passed on to the other side, I don't know. But who knows the horrors that this particular guard has seen during his time at the prison. And he's still said to keep watch from his guard tower, watch the inner courtyard of the prison.
Probably one of the eeriest stories told about the old deteriorating landmark centers around the terrifying experience of a locksmith who was called in to work on several locks inside the prison.
When the prison became a historical location, they started doing ghost tours right before Halloween. And a locksmith was called in to work on a couple of the older locks just to facilitate the tour. As the gentleman was working on the locks, he looked down the hall and he saw a person standing there watching him. He had that feeling that somebody or something was watching him. And as he looked at this figure, he noticed that it started to kind of fade. It was solid as you or I, and then it would just kind of turn into like a smoke or just a kind of an outline of a person. And as he watched, he noticed that this smoke started to move down the hall towards him. And he sat there in kind of a stunned silence watching this smoke just kind of creep down the hall, and right before it reached him, it shot up into the ceiling. The locksmith looked up, kind of expecting probably to see an apparition or what have you, or at least to see where the smoke had gone. And instead, he saw numerous glowing cat eyes that were looking down at him, blinking. And in a maniacal voice, he heard the words, "We're watching you."
Others have reported seeing human shadows disappearing into walls of solid stone, while others have encountered a vaguely humanoid specter which is said to exude a profound loathing from somewhere inside its wisp-like form. Other volunteers working in the 6th block have reported seeing ghostly figures darting back and forth across corridors and disappearing into rooms. In each instance, no one has been able to identify the source of the strange noises or the wraith-like visitors.
Without a doubt, the Eastern State Penitentiary is haunted. There were evil men placed in this prison to keep them away from humanity, and that evil still exists there today. Only now it's just waiting in the shadows, waiting for that unsuspecting visitor to get too close, to finally make or exact its revenge.
We've always heard that Eastern State is haunted, and it's hard not to walk around here and feel that people just left or that there's something happening behind you. But then you look around, you see the way the building's deteriorating, and it's this lost world of just crumbling walls and the skylights throwing the light down, or moonlight at night. And it's very, very spooky. You have to believe that if there are ghosts anywhere, they would be here, because there were so many thousands and thousands of people who lived out the end of their life in this building, trying to get out and not able to do it.
The numerous paranormal events encountered by visitors and staff, coupled with the documented incidents reported by ghost investigators at the Eastern State Penitentiary, are proof that sometimes, when a prison is abandoned, the spirits of the men and women who died there linger behind. What lurks in the shadows behind the walls of the old Eastern State Penitentiary? No one knows for sure, but one irrefutable fact seems to go unquestioned. When the prison is silent, and the only noise that can be heard is the howl of the wind through the halls or the groan of a cell door moving by itself, the prison's horrible past creeps out and mingles with the present.
Eastern State Penitentiary is just a difficult place to be at night. It's creepy, and we generally keep out of here after sunset.